this is always very personal. But when you're designing a scene, if you tend to do scenes, which I would highly recommend over just an affirmation, um, only because repeating affirmations can end you up in the trap of indefinitely manifesting something because you get too identified with working to get something instead of appropriating already having it. And the goal is to feel as if you already have it, which is why I think scenes are way more effective. But when it comes to picking when to set these scenes, who to include in these scenes, and what to include in these scenes, I think you want to go further or farther. I think it would be. It might be further. In time, time is different than space. So in space, it would be farther. It might be further, but in other words, you'd want to pick something way after the thing you want to experience. Now, way after for you might be a couple months. It might be a couple years. It might only be a couple days. It depends on kind of your personal experience of time. But to sort of make that more concrete, if you really want a relationship with a person, and I mean like a committed marriage or something close to a marriage, stop imagining for contact or for a reunion with them. That's not what you really want, probably. If you really want a marriage, you would imagine for after you've been married, telling someone or doing the simple ring thing and knowing, yeah, I'm already married. You wouldn't imagine for a proposal because guess what? Let's be real. A ton of people get engaged and never end up married. It falls apart way before the marriage. So you would identify the state you really want to experience, which is the marriage, and go into that. Now, as a little bit of an aside, the fact is a lot of people don't want the marriage. A lot of people want some kind of emotional release or ego massage from someone that they either really want and have never had a relationship with, or had some kind of falling out with. And that's where you just got to be honest with yourself and identify what you want. Now, when it comes to the job, here's another case where a lot of people are not being totally honest with what they want. If you really want the job, don't go to. Usually, the big mistake I see people making is they focus on the interview. Who cares about the interview? Nobody's going to remember your interview in 5 years. You want to actually give yourself the title, be working there. I would think that, I mean, Neville always recommended the handshake, but honestly, I think that's a little bit too close to the end. I mean, a little bit too close to when you get hired, and your real end is once you have the job and have had the job for a couple of years and are very satisfied with it and confident in that position. So I think having a conversation with a friend, telling them I've been working at X company for 5 years now, is better. That's more the actual state you want. If you really want that, you may find when you're thinking about these things that you don't really want the job. You want a certain level of prestige, or you want a certain amount of money, or you want a certain work-life balance. Those things are not the job. The job would in that case be what Neville calls a secondary desire. And your primary desire is like, well, the work-life balance. And sometimes it's not even the money. It might be the sense of freedom that you would get from a certain amount of money. A certain social status that you feel you've attained once you have a certain job and are making a certain amount of money. So really be honest with yourself with what you want, because that'll help you suss out if you even really want this thing and if it's even worth it to decide, what is sort of the ideal state relative to this thing you want to manifest. But the overall point of it is when you're aiming for a certain state and designing a scene designed to bring you into that, you want to be as precise as possible so that you experience what you really want to experience. And you know what? If it is concerning a relationship, if you really do just want to feel better about yourself, like feel desirable, like feel like, I don't know, feel like you're someone who people like to be around, or you're someone attractive, or you're someone loved, or those type of things. If you really just want that, give yourself that. Don't waste time trying to include someone in the scene that really has nothing to do with what you actually want. And it's the same when it comes to job or money or whatever. If you really, really just want a sense of freedom. You need to give yourself that. Now, the money may be the best symbol for you, but sometimes doing that absolutist method of just losing yourself in the sense of freedom and appropriating that as a true identity for you is the best way to do it. Now, look, and once you've done that, you can claim all the symbols of freedom you want, and you'll find it to be much, much easier to appropriate those things as opposed to struggling to design this scene around money, and what you really want is freedom. And if you haven't baked that into it, if you haven't really identified what you actually want here and baked it into what you're aiming for and focusing on and identifying with, well, the thing will manifest and you still won't get what you want. So you'll get the money, but you won't get the sense of freedom. You'll get the marriage, but you won't feel, it won't be the complete, it won't be the holistic experience of this relationship you want. And in some cases, if you don't really want the marriage, like if you just want it to feel better about yourself for some reason, you'll get the marriage and still feel shitty about yourself. Guess what? There are tons of miserable married people. And when it comes to body, I think body is one where a lot of times people want to have a certain, usually appearance, but even states of health. They want to have a certain body so that, because they assume other people will treat them differently as a result. That's another one where you need to be careful. Is this really about you? Do you want this experience of your body, or do you would think people would give you more attention if you have this certain appearance? Do you think people would treat you a certain way if you have a certain appearance? That way you can just pick out, well, this is really not my true desire. My true desire is this, and go to that. Give yourself that instead. Like if you really just want attention, give yourself imagine that you're someone that a lot of people pay attention to. Instead of giving yourself some other appearance change or personality change, but it doesn't end up getting you the attention you want. Like, be honest with yourself. You want attention, give yourself attention. If you want to feel loved and desirable, give that to yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I'm just trying to let you know that you should be efficient in selecting your scenes, so that you do end up experiencing the state you really want to experience, and not something actually totally unrelated. This is the power and the use of honesty with yourself about what you really want. All right, let's scoot into the lecture.